So this past week, Sony unveiled the PS5, and we get to see a sneak peek at all of the games that are coming out, video game trailers covering things like the new Horizon game, Hitman, Strays, Ratchet and Clank, just so many new games coming out. We also got to look at the hardware design, which I think is the first time we've actually gotten to see that, the actual PS5 setup. And we also got to check out the new DualSense Controller that is going to be replacing the DualShock that we've all come to know and love over the years of PlayStation. Not gonna lie, this video might be a long one, but it's gonna be worth it if you're into video gaming at all. So stick with me. Also, subscribe. You know I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it. Subscribe. It's probably over here. We got to see the games, the hardware, and even hear from the people who made them. So with that, let's get into this episode and talk some PS5. Sony reveals the PS5 on June 11th, 2020. Now, I want to take a minute just to point out the fact that originally the PS5 reveal was going to be on June 4th, but as all y'all know, there's been some turmoil in the world, and out of respect for everything that was happening, they chose to make a public stance on where they stood, and also because of that, push back their reveal another week, which, I mean, hats off to you, Sony. I respect that, I do. So the reveal begins the Sony Interactive Entertainment CEO Jim Ryan talking about the past 25 years of Sony, going from PS1 to 2 to 3 to PSP and Vita, and just kind of the journey that has been PlayStation, which is really cool. 1994 was when PS1 came out, so I did get mine in 95. I was a little bit behind the curve on that, but I remember just getting that and kind of growing up with PlayStation over the years and just really loving the console and the ideas and concepts that were coming out in these games and these creators were doing. They showed us the new Spider-Man game, which if you've played Marvel Spider-Man on PS4, that game was amazing. Big open world, lots of side quests, extra missions, voice acting was great, and we get our first peek at Miles Morales in one of the video games. And of course the new Spider-Man for PS5, none other than featuring Miles himself. Miles gets the starring role in this one. That's exciting. That's exciting for a few reasons. And while it's not Donald Glover, we're getting close. We're getting it's good. I'll take it. I will take it. Miles Morales, I'm excited to see what you do in PS5. And the game trailer just looks so crisp and so clean and so dramatic. I'm on board after playing Spider-Man on PS4, and I mean just the Spider-Man games and comics in general, they're so good. This is a great game to kick off PS5. And of course, if you've been keeping up with PlayStation at all over the years, you know one of their flagship starter games every time a new console comes out is none other than Gran Turismo, one of the most highly detailed racing games. And while I'm not personally a huge fan of it, I have trouble with the controls. I'm more of a Twisted Metal or Ridge Racer, Need for Speed kind of guy. I appreciate how much detail and perfection goes into Gran Turismo. Also, I'm pretty sure this guy's a machine. I don't think it's human. Anyway, looks like a great game, super crisp. If you're into racing, it's definitely one that you're going to want to check out. We also got to have a look at the new Ratchet and Clank game, which Ratchet and Clank made their debut on PlayStation 2 and have had a series of games coming out since then that, while it looks cartoonish and a little bit like it's geared toward a younger audience, it has a lot of kind of underlying themes and a little bit of adult humor to it. And it's overall just a really fun game. So we also got a very brief glimpse at a game that sort of looks like a cross between Final Fantasy and Bayonetta. And it's called Project Athea, coming out for PS5. Looks great, looks very open world, a bit magic and surreal, a bit gritty action. I don't know, we only got about a minute trailer out of it, but it looks like a good game and I'm curious to see more of it, that's for sure. So this game kind of made me think of the Love, Death, and Robots series that comes on Netflix, which if you haven't seen it, you should probably check that out. It's kind of cool. If you're into anime, cartoons, and strange stuff, it's there. And in this game is called Strays, where you play a very live, organic cat in what seems like a world that is now void of humans and completely taken over by robots. We didn't really get a lot of background on the game, so I'm not entirely sure where the story's going yet, but it looks pretty clean. I mean, like everything on the PlayStation coming up, it looks like it's going to be a very in-depth game. No idea what the plot or storyline's going to be yet, but I'm gonna check it out. We also got a sneak peek at Returnal, which just that name itself sounds awesome. And it's pretty much like a Groundhog Day in space, where you play a character that is getting this recurring, they crash on a planet, they explore, they get killed, they restart, they crash, they explore, they die again, they restart, and it's this whole like maintaining your sanity where the planet seems to change a little bit every single time that they're reborn, so to speak. And it's a really interesting concept, not a new concept, but a good one nonetheless, and I think a good one for this game, especially for fans of sci-fi, which, yeah, you know, I'm a sci-fi fan. I'm gonna be checking that out. We also got to see the return of one of the most famous PS3 characters, which was Sackboy. Bit of a strange name, I know, but bear with me, it was LittleBigPlanet. Now we get to see a comeback here on PS5, which should be cool. It's a good little puzzle game. I think it's good for all ages. You know, it's not entirely geared at kids, but it's not entirely geared at adults, and it's got a lot of fun parts to it. And it's just a good way to pass some time. So I'm curious to see what they come up with. So it isn't like a huge jump in graphics, but I'm curious what they're gonna do with the world and how more open they're gonna make it, if they are. LittleBigPlanet, coming back for PS5. Since the PS1, I've been a fan of the Twisted Metal series. And I remember when PS2 came out and there was Twisted Metal Black that was released. There was also this game called Super Snow Cross, or SSX. And this game that they're revealing for PS5 looks like a cross between Twisted Metal and Super Snow Cross, with a little dash of Overwatch in it, if you will. And it's fighting in these arenas with their cars and getting out. What's crazy is they also show parts where the characters, the ones driving the cars, are getting out and running after their cars have been destroyed. So I'm really curious to see, is there an aspect to where you're just running, trying to dodge everybody in the arena? Can you go back and get like another car? Does your car get repaired? I think there's a lot of potential with that personally I'm very excited about. So Destruction All-Stars, keep an eye out for that game. We also got our first look at Deathloop, which is kind of another Groundhog's Day-esque version, except in this one it's two assassins and a theme park, maybe? The trailer kind of explains it as you play a guy who is constantly hunted in this kind of theme park setting by people, and every time they catch him, it's a reset. And it's him trying to break out of this game and break out of this cycle, but there's also another lead assassin who's after him the whole time, who just is constantly wanting to redo this cycle, having fun with this. And it's from Bethesda, which, you know, makes all the Fallout games, which I don't know if you know how I feel about Fallout, but I got a bit of a soft spot for Fallout. I am a fan, not gonna lie. It has that kind of grit to it, with that kind of humor, and of course, a bit over the top violence. So keep that in mind. This does not look like this is gonna be a rated E for everyone type game. But already the voice acting sounds good. It has this kind of grindhouse style to the artwork, which I'm very excited about. I'm a fan of that. I love that kind of just cheesy. I mean, did you ever play House of the Dead Overkill? It'd be cooler if you did. That game was great. So keep your eyes peeled for Deathloop. In 1997, I had my first experience with Oddworld and its inhabitants. And if you never played Oddworld, hold on. 1997, we get our first glimpse at this fella here, Abe, in the Oddworld inhabitants. It was a puzzler game, rated T for teen, because it had a little tiny bit of toilet humor to it, which that was hilarious. Basically a puzzle platformer with this weird sci-fi background to it. So in this game, you play Abe, who is a janitor at Rupture Farms, big food processing corporation. Big food processing corporation, couldn't say it. And he's cleaning up one night and he comes in and he sees all the bosses are gathered around and they're deciding to make a new product, which is made out of the Madakans, which is Abe's people. New and improved and delicious Tasty Pops, Tasty Treats, Tasty Soylent Green. It's Soylent Green, but with this guy, who's, I mean, kind of green already. We take a look at part 2, we get Oddworld Abe's Exodus, which carried on the story of Abe as he passed Ruptured Farms and saving his people and what his true destiny was. And now, there's been a lot of Oddworld games in between there, you know, Stranger's Wrath and Munch's Odyssey, which were good games too, but we get to go back to Abe's story with PS5, and I'm very excited about this. Abe was easily my favorite character for, I mean, he was the defining character of Oddworld Inhabitants, and why everything else was pretty cool. I'm excited to see what's going on with Old Man Abe now. Oddworld SoulStorm. keep an eye out for that. That's gonna be a good one. That is easily one of my top 5 picks right there. I wanna check that one out. Oh, you remember when I was saying I'm a Twisted Metal fan? Twisted Metal, PS1, Twisted Metal 2. Good soundtrack, by the way. For just a video game soundtrack before they got Rob Zombie, pretty solid. Then they got Rob Zombie, which the soundtrack just got better. This is probably one of the best parts of Twisted Metal as it went on, was the soundtrack. I was like, oh man, music to wreck cars too. Why not? It was cool. Now, are you a fan of the horror genre of games? Oh, it's so scary. Well, they got a treat for you. PS5 has The Village. Now, you might be saying, The Village, this looks kind of familiar, kind of not, I'm not entirely sure. When I saw this trailer, I wasn't sure what I was looking at until you see, wait for it. Wait for it. There. Was that Umbrella? Well, turns out The Village is Resident Evil Part 8. Now, I was a fan of the original Resident Evil series. I do like these remakes that they're doing. I'm not mad at that. The remake for Resident Evil 1 and 2, I haven't played 3 yet, but I'm sure being chased by Nemesis down the hallway in HD is terrifying. I didn't really get that much into 7. 7 kind of took it a different direction for me in terms of I'm so used to the zombies and lickers and tyrants and evil creation that 7 kind of took it another way, but I'm not mad at it. I would have liked to see more action in it. I felt your character was pretty helpless in Resident Evil 7. You were susceptible to every attack, you couldn't really fight back. It was more like, just keep running away, you'll be fine. So I want to see, I'm hoping that in Resident Evil 8, with the Village, that there's more interactions, more chance to kind of like defend yourself, fight back, be sneaky, get around. I hope they kind of open that up a bit. But either way, Resident Evil's always been a great title. Well, mostly. Resident Evil's mostly been a great title. But I mean, what game doesn't have its hiccups here and there, you know? Horizon Zero Dawn. One of my favorite open world explorer games on PS4, and honestly a game with a very good DLC, Into the Frozen Wilds, which I feel like took it another step. Like the game itself was already good, but the voice acting and just the kind of character expressions and everything, they stepped it up with just the DLC. And now for PS5, we are getting the next installment in the chapter with Horizon the Forbidden West, and Aloy is back. And of course that means also a ton of corrupted machines are back too. As expected, the graphics look amazing. I'm sure the story is going to be on point, and we get to kind of tie up a bunch of loose ends from the first one that honestly just all the overall game, it just looks amazing. And I think there's no way they're gonna do wrong by this. If it's anywhere near the quality of the first one, the new Horizon Forbidden West is going to be a great game, and hours of gameplay to take into it. So definitely keep an eye out for that. And yeah, I'm stoked for it. Agent 47 is back. One of my favorite games of all time. I love the stealth and the nuance of the Hitman series. And of course, they've been doing Hitman 1 and 2 on the PS4, and now it looks like we're getting the third part of the trilogy. And I think it's important to point out that in this particular trilogy, you know, there's already been a Hitman 1, 2, 3, and Blood Money and Contracts and all those have already come up. But when they started redoing, when they did the first Hitman for PS4, I thought it was going to be kind of a reboot of the first one, and where it did keep a lot of the same elements. Despite having the same title, it is a new game. This is the third part that's going to close off this particular Hitman series. I always appreciate how intricate they make the plots and how open-ended they make the missions, to where if you're a running gun type, you can try. It doesn't usually work, but you can try it. You can try stealth, you can try a bunch of different tactics. There's no one way to solve your contracts. That's probably the best way I can put it. But the game itself looks great, the graphics are always good, and it's just another one that I'm ready to play. Like when that one comes out, top of the list. Alright, so now let's talk about the hardware for a minute, the actual PS5 system itself. It has a black and white aesthetic, highlighted by blue LED lights running along the vents on the inside of it. It looks like it's already fairly slim. It does have a 4K Blu-ray disc drive on the side, so it's going to be a little bit thicker in that aspect. Now this is a cool thing. This is the first PlayStation that Sony has revealed to actually have a digital version, the PS5 Digital, which it does not have the Blu-ray drive, and you actually just can't play any discs on it. It's all digital. And whether or not we are actually in a spot where that's a good thing kind of has yet to be seen. PS Now, PSN could use a little bit of an upgrade, which hopefully is coming with PS5. And I'm also hoping that they're going to take into consideration storage space if they're going to do an all-digital version, because it kind of gets tiresome having to delete a game to play a new game, delete one. I mean, Red Dead was like 100 gigs of space. It was insane. So hopefully that's something they're kind of taking into consideration. And overall, the machine has been getting kind of a bad rap online. People have been kind of making fun of it, saying it just looks like a big Wi-Fi router. But I mean, who doesn't love Wi-Fi? Who does not have Wi-Fi in their house? And it's fine. I feel like the PlayStation itself and the controller, which has been coming under some fire about, it's a sleek looking machine. It's kind of futuristic. I love the blue LED highlights. I think it looks cool. To me, the PlayStation 5 and the DualSense controller looks like they came out of the Detroit Becoming Human video game. Like, it has that kind of feel and look to it. I love futuristic items. I'm a big Blade Runner fan, and anything sci-fi. I think this is actually a cool thing. And yeah, it's a little bit different than what we're used to with PlayStation, but I feel like every single iteration of the PlayStation has been fairly drastically different from the one before it. And people are uncertain about it, not sure if you want it, and then by the time you're playing it, you're like, oh, this is great, this is the best machine ever. Sony has also kind of caught a little bit of heat for their DualSense controller, which is going to be replacing the DualShock controller that we've been using since I think DualShock came out with PS2? I know we did have analog sticks and everything for PS1, but I don't think they had the DualShock function yet. So the DualSense controller is getting these upgrades, and it's got a few minor details on it in terms of like the protruding circles in the bottom underneath your analog sticks. These are getting built into the body now. They're getting molded into it. So you've got a nice flat section across the bottom. It does have an integrated speaker in it. It also has a mic in it, which they're kind of hinting at you can interact with your friends online without actually having to have a separate microphone or a headset. So that's kind of cool. It also does still have the headphone jack. Apple, still useful. Headphone jack, still a fan of that. Let's keep that stuff in. So Sony has been catching some negative attention based on the fact that their new PS5 controller, the DualSense, is kind of looking less like a PlayStation controller and more like an Xbox controller. But I'm saying, what's wrong with that? I mean, if it's a good design, a good design. If it feels good, the most important part is creating this kind of immersion experience for gamers. I think so long as you give credit where credit is due, I don't see the problem with the kind of crossover in the ideas. Sony is sticking with the side-by-side setup for the analog sticks instead of adopting the kind of offset sticks that Xbox does. But I think ultimately it's still a cool looking controller. So haptic feedback. That basically just means, let me get the exact quote here, the use of technology that stimulates the senses of touch and motion. So Sony has upgraded their controllers in the DualSense with both the nuance that they're adding with these haptic motors and the number of motors they're adding to it. So you're getting a different sense in it, and they're really trying to create this kind of immersive experience to where what you're seeing is lining up with what you're feeling, with what you're hearing, and it's kind of cool, honestly. So on the PlayStation itself, we're seeing the front of it. We're seeing it has two USB ports, but the reveal didn't actually show us what the back of the system looks like. So I'm sure you're gonna see things like your Ethernet port, your HDMI outs and everything. I'm not sure what else they're gonna add to it, but could be cool to see in the future. Hopefully they'll kind of unveil that as it goes along. We also gotta look at some of the accessories that are going with it to include a media remote, a dual controller charger, which is a very low profile, kind of sleek looking, it doesn't have a large footprint, doesn't take up a ton of space. We also get a look at the new PlayStation camera, which I'm hoping that PSVR, now that PS5 is coming out, they're also gonna upgrade that a bit. Maybe not necessarily the headset, but the resolution for sure. But I feel like that's really the only thing that's kind of kept PSVR behind things like Oculus, is that the resolution and clarity of it. And if that's getting an upgrade with this, I mean, we're in for some good stuff. Hopefully we're in for another wave of really cool PSVR games. Now, one thing we have not heard from Sony about in all of this is about backwards compatibility, which I know everyone's been talking about it for PS4, and now people are talking about it for PS5, and I'm like, Sony, just for the collector's sake, just let us play it. Just let us play the old games. I got so many from PS1 to PS4, all of these games that I want to play sometimes. I want to go back and check them out. That is one thing I've been very happy about with Xbox, is that they took the time to, it wasn't all of them, but they did a lot of backwards compatibility with discs from, your 360 and your original Xbox. So hopefully, that's kind of like push the bar a little bit, and Sony's going to be like, okay, we'll at least give you PS3 and 4. You can play the discs on it, but that might be wishful thinking at this point. Hopefully they'll do something, but we'll see. So that's it, y'all. PS5, the reveal from Sony. And honestly, everything is looking pretty good. All of it it's all on point. I love the aesthetics of the hardware, the game titles, the launch titles they have coming out are all pretty solid. Everything about it's just very exciting. And I'm hoping that they're going to reveal a little more and more each month leading up to the supposed holiday release, holiday 2020. I mean, who knows? 2020 has been wild. Who knows what's going to happen during then? And we have not gotten a price on it yet. I think there was a thing on Amazon where they supposedly had a listing for it and it was like $800 and then it got taken down. Who knows? Who knows what's going on with it? If history repeats itself, it's probably going to be in the 500 range when it comes out, which it's kind of steep for your average gamer for sure. I mean, I usually wait until the second iteration of it to come out when all the bugs have been worked through and there's a following year holiday sale where it's $120 off or something. So keep your eyes out for that, and hopefully Sony will give us a little detail soon on what pricing and launch is going to look like. Until then, PS4 is still keeping us busy. We still got Cyberpunk still supposed to come out eventually. We got the Final Fantasy VII remake, which is another one that was a very clean, very well done remake. We've got Last of Us Part 2. So we've still got some gems to keep us busy on the PS4, that's for sure. Who knows? Maybe they got a few more they're going to sneak in there under the radar before PS4 kind of starts to transition to PS5. If you got any games that you want us to know about, leave it in the comments. If you just got something you want to say about it, cool, leave that in the comments too. And till next time, game on, y'all. Hold on, I'm getting a phone call. Hello? Yeah, that sounds about right. Also, I'm deciding whether or not I'm going to leave this on, I'm actually recording right now, so I might actually leave this in the video and just be like, no, let's, yeah, like on that, I'll just order one. Later. So haptic feedback.